Imagine waking up tomorrow and hearing nothing. No birds chirping, no dogs barking, not even the buzz of a mosquito. Just absolute deafening silence. That silence is just the beginning. Within 72 hours, the air will become unbreathable. Within a year, most of the plants we love will die. We tend to think of animals as separate: lions, dolphins, bees. But what if all of them vanished in a single instant? Not just the mammals and birds. Every insect, every fish, every worm in the soil, and every microscopic creature in the ocean classified as an animal. In this video, we're not going to ask why or how. We're going on a terrifying scientific journey to see what would happen to our planet, second by second and year by year. And what you'll discover is that the real catastrophe isn't their disappearance, it's what they leave behind. Hour zero, the moment it happens. On land, 1.5 quintillion insects die. In the oceans, 3.5 trillion fish stop swimming. And 8 billion humans, along with billions of mammals, birds, and reptiles, cease to exist. The immediate effect isn't what we'd expect. No explosions, no fire. The first impact is sound, or rather, the lack of it. The ensuing silence is deafening. Jet engines stop. Planes fall from the sky. Cars crash for a few moments before everything stops. But the planet doesn't stay quiet for long. Within 12 hours, the first phase begins. The Great Rot. Billions of tons of biomass. Animals from elephants to mice, humans to whales, all begin to decay at once. The only survivors on the planet, the other kingdoms, bacteria, fungi, and plants. For them, this is a feast unlike any in history. Within 48 hours, bacterial populations multiply uncontrollably. These microbes begin consuming the remains, releasing massive quantities of gases. The air will become toxic, not figuratively, chemically. The atmosphere will fill with compounds like hydrogen sulfide, the smell of rotten eggs, methane, and ammonia. In areas that were densely populated or had factory farms, the air will become suffocating, lethal to anything that might have somehow survived. Rivers and lakes won't be drinkable. They will become a thick organic soup, stripping all oxygen from the water. Hypoxia. Some lakes might even turn bright pink and purple, not as a sign of life, but as a sign of sulfur-consuming bacteria taking over. After the first few weeks of the Great Rot, the earth begins to breathe differently. The fungi and bacteria have consumed much of the carrion, and the smells are subsiding. One might think the disaster has passed, but the real catastrophe hasn't even started. We've just entered the true problem, the silent famine. This is year one. Spring arrives. The plants bloom just as they always do. Trees put out their blossoms and so do the fields. Everything looks normal, but something is terribly wrong. 87% of all flowering plants on Earth, about 350,000 species, rely on an animal pollinator. Bees, butterflies, moths, bats, hummingbirds, they are all gone. This is what we call the last bloom. The flowers open, offering nectar and pollen, to nothing. No pollen is transferred, no ovule is fertilized. As a result, these plants will not produce fruit, and they will not produce seeds. In this new world, say goodbye to apples, coffee, chocolate, almonds, avocados, oranges, berries, watermelons, pumpkins. The list goes on and on. These plants will flower this one last time and then fail to reproduce. Within a few years, their entire lineages will die out. Our colourful orchards and diverse fields will become historical relics. But it doesn't stop at pollination. There's another, slower-moving disaster unfolding: seed dispersal failure. Many of our largest trees, oaks, cherries, evolved to depend on animals. Squirrels bury acorns, birds eat berries, fly away, and deposit the seeds in a new location, complete with a small helping of fertilizer. Without this biological delivery service, forests become sterile. When a cherry falls from its parent tree, it lands directly at its base. If the seedling sprouts, it will compete with its parent for sunlight and resources, and it will almost always die. What we get are zombie forests, forests of living, ancient trees, but with no new generation to replace them. Imagine a forest fire. In our world, animals, birds, squirrels, come in from neighboring areas, bringing seeds, and the forest begins to recover. In this new world, when a forest burns, it stays barren. There is no mechanism to bring the seeds back. And now, let's look down to what's beneath our feet. The third silent catastrophe is happening in the soil. Healthy soil isn't just dirt. It's a living ecosystem of billions of organisms. The heroes are the earthworms, the ants, the beetles, and thousands of micro-arthropods. These animals are nature's plows. They aerate the soil, allowing water and oxygen to reach the roots. They pull organic matter, dead leaves, down, mix it, and create the rich, nutrient-dense layer of humus. Without them, the soil becomes compacted, hard as a rock. When leaves die now, they just fall on the surface and stay there. The fungi and bacteria are still there, but they work much more slowly and differently. The soil erosion stops, and when it rains, the water isn't absorbed. Instead, it runs off the surface, causing massive soil erosion. The rich topsoil melts away, leaving sterile clay and rock behind. So, will all plants die? Number. There is a class of plants that doesn't care about animals at all. They are the wind-pollinated anemophilous plants. Grasses, conifers, like pine and fir trees, and trees like oaks and beeches. These plants produce enormous, overwhelming quantities of lightweight pollen and just release it to the wind. In this new world, free from competition, these plants will explode. The Earth's landscapes will slowly transform. The diverse, colorful rainforests and fields of wildflowers will vanish. They will be replaced by endless, monotonous grasslands, dense, dark, and silent pine forests. The Earth will become green, perhaps even greener than before. But it will be a silent, monotonous green. By the way, the amount of pollen in the air would be astronomical. Any human who somehow survived the Great Rot would most certainly die from the worst allergy attack in the history of the universe. We focused on the land, but 70% of our planet is water. And this is where the largest, most critical disaster of all is happening. You might think the oceans will be fine. After all, phytoplankton, microscopic plants, are still there, and they produce 50 to 80% of Earth's oxygen. Right? That's partially true, but we forgot about one tiny animal, smaller than your fingernail. It's the zooplankton. These are the microscopic cows of the ocean. They eat the phytoplankton, and without them, you might think the phytoplankton would just grow uncontrollably. But the opposite is true. Zooplankton play a vital role in nutrient cycling. They eat the phytoplankton and then release waste, yes, poop, that is rich in essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which the phytoplankton need to grow. Without this rapid recycling, the surface nutrients are quickly used up, and the phytoplankton populations will crash. But their most important role is something we call the biological pump. It is the most important climate control system on our planet. Here's how it works. Phytoplankton at the surface absorb CO2 from the atmosphere, just like trees. Zooplankton eat them. When these zooplankton die or excrete waste, they are heavy. They sink. They fall like marine snow for thousands of feet into the deep ocean. When they reach the bottom, they bury that carbon. They effectively sequester it, locking it away from the atmosphere for thousands or millions of years. This pump is what has kept our climate in balance. With the death of all zooplankton, fish and whales, the biological pump stops dead. Carbon sequestration in the ocean ceases. All the CO2 that is now released from volcanoes, from the decay of remaining material, stays in the atmosphere. In the long term, this will lead to a runaway greenhouse effect far beyond anything we've ever seen. The oceans will become more acidic, and global temperatures will soar. We've just broken the planet's thermostat. So, what would happen if all animals died? The Earth wouldn't die. Life is incredibly resilient, but the Earth as we know it would be gone forever. It would transform from a complex, interconnected ecosystem of millions of species into a frighteningly simple world, a planet ruled by three kingdoms: bacteria, fungi, and plants, the wind-pollinated ones. It would be a green planet, but a silent one, a planet where the wind blows across endless grasslands, carrying pollen instead of the sound of birds. A planet where the soil is dead and the oceans are stagnant chemical pools. It would take hundreds of millions of years for complex biodiversity to evolve again. We would have reset the planet's biological clock by 1 billion years. The truth is, we don't just live with animals, we live because of them.